Hello and welcome back to another episode of 100 Days of Code with me, Lily Code. Thanks so much for joining me, guys. So I got my days confused. Well, I didn't get them confused. I was going through my videos and as it turns out, I had two 83-day videos uploaded. So I just rectified that. And basically, as a result now, we're on day 93. So that's the story, and we're starting here with day 93. I have a community meeting at 8 p.m. The day got away from me today. Had a busy day, long day in work, and I have a community meeting at 8 p.m. and this takes so long to upload. It's going to have to be shorter, basically. I won't bore you with the details, but this is going to have to be 50 minutes because otherwise I'll be here until 1 in the morning. And that ain't my prerogative. The girl's got to get her sleep, you know what I mean? I have got to get my sleep. It's very important to me. So yes, great. So let's get going here. So last time, and also I watched a great video on React testing in Jest on Udemy today. And the lady spoke nice and slowly and clearly. So that's my new prerogative, to slow it down so everybody can understand me, because not everybody is a native English speaker, or perhaps I just speak very quickly anyway. So please do tell me if there's anything you'd like me to do. So where we left off last time was this was not displaying, and what I did was I went to Brad's repo and I copied his app.js because I had a strong intuitive feeling that the issue was coming from the app.js file. So if I go back here now to what we had previously, we had this code. So I will copy this and then we'll figure out what the issue was. And then let's go back. Right, so this fixed it. And it loads with this code. Cool. And what we had previously was this. So we have our router and then we have our routes and our route. So perhaps the routes and the route. Although normally we get a specific error for that. So why we weren't getting our specific error, I'm not sure. But okay. So let's continue with what we're doing here. Great. Sorry, I'm a bit lost today. Okay, guys. So we're continuing on here now with our links. So we have our home page and our about. And it is going to our about and our home. We can see it being routed up there. And when we click down below, so okay. And what's actually on these pages? So what we want to do now is, yes, implement these. So I'll uncomment our imports. This was just for checking what was going wrong here. So let's just make sure as we keep going that nothing is breaking as we go, because that's what I missed out on last time. I just sort of rallied ahead and something broke and I wasn't aware and then we got ourselves into the first mess. So let's reload. So keep an eye on your browser, keep an eye on what's happening, keep an eye on your errors, and this will help you. So okay, yeah, so they're just giving us warnings there that we've defined these things but we've never used them, but we're going to put them into action now. So we have router, routes and route. Yeah, so now within our main content we want to add these routes. So I'll just get rid of the comment. We're going to start this again. That's what we're doing. So because we just faced errors that I wasn't sure what was going on. So if we come in here now and add our, we need to add a class to our main. just to give it some styling. Oh, sorry about that, guys. So we'll add a class to our main here. Class name in React. And we will equal this to container mx auto. So these are inbuilt with the package that we installed, Tailwind. And Tailwind allows you to write the names of the classes and then applies the CSS for you. It's handy. It is handy. And then PB12. But I would be of the opinion that you need to learn how to write the classes. So it's a good practice to just write out your CSS classes and actually link this to make it a class name, say in main container, and add in the different CSS things that you want to happen, as opposed to just this automatically doing it for you with Tailwind. But it's handy, it makes it quicker. So then within our main here, we want to add a routes. Okay. And then within here we want to add a route, and then we specify our route in the format of React Router DOM version 6. So that means we add an element here. That's how React Router DOM version 6 takes in your routed elements. So home, we do not have a home. So that would be part, oh we do, yeah. So home, we want our home component in here. Cool. And this should then be self-closing, and let's save that. Okay. Okay. And we want to duplicate this for about and not found also. So we're just setting up the routing to our different pages here. So So in order to do the not found, we can just do / and a star, and then anything that doesn't exist when we type it into our browser here, we should get redirected to that not found page. So let's try that out. So I'll do a / add in some mumbo jumbo, and there we go. We have our oops 404 page not found page that we've created. So perfect. And look, we can even go back to home. That's brilliant. So if we go to our not found page here, we can see the text that we just seen. So we just had an oops in a H1 with our Tailwind CSS classes on it, a paragraph saying 404 not found, and then our link to go back home. And these are using Daisy UI. So Daisy UI is for styling different parts of your UI, and that's what styled that button for us. So if I just go back there and show you, so these are just npm packages that we have installed that make the styling a bit nicer. But you know, it's a good practice to learn how to do this yourself. You're going to need to learn how to do it as a front-end developer, but maybe this is a good place to start off so you can focus just on the framework. But there are skills that really go hand in hand, so I think just get in and do your CSS or your SCSS. Okay. So now on our about page, cool. So if we go to /about, let's see what that looks like. So we should just have some information here. Yeah, so we have GitHub Finder. We have that twice. So yes, we do have that twice. We have it here and here. So I'll just remove one of those instances and save. And then when I reload, we should only have it once now. Yes. So we just have GitHub Finder, a React app. Just give some information, and then the version and who the layout is by. So that text isn't being displayed properly. Links to his Twitter, cool. So let's go for text black instead, because we couldn't see it when it was white with the theme that we've installed or that we've decided to use. So there we go. And we'll also make the version black. And save. And there we go. We can see our version and who made the layout. So perfect. And let's our not found page is done. So now we're going to fetch the users and display them. So in order to do that, we need to hook up to GitHub. And in order to hook up to GitHub, we need to assign a token. So we're going to use a token. So we're going to get the token and insert it into the code so we can hook up to GitHub and pull down that list of users. So that's what we're going to do now. So I'm just listening to the video here. So if we go to the GitHub documentation here, we can see some information on how we are going to make this happen. So we'll just go to github.com and then we will find la documentation. So documentation, all of GitHub. Maybe if I just search for GitHub documentation, because I'm not sure where to access it. There we go. No. That's the search parameter I inserted. So GitHub documentation on APIs is what we're actually looking for. So I just might as well put in the keywords. And here we go. So docs, GitHub, and REST API. So this is what we want to do. So we'll go to resources in the REST API. And here we can see information. So basic authentication, cool, parameters. I want to see the APIs that we can actually hit. So here we go. Users. There we go. Okay, so here's an example here. You're just hitting HTTPS API. Let me zoom in on this. You zoom out one because some went mad on the last one. So all API access is over HTTPS and is accessed from api.github.com. All data is received and sent as a JSON. So cool. So we can hit this API here and actually see the users that GitHub has. So if we open up our Postman and test this out, we should be able to see what comes back. Postman. Postman, where are you? I only installed you the other day. Open. I don't know. So it looks like we're going to have to go back to Postman Online, which Postman Agent. Don't think. Oh, maybe it is Postman Agent. Okay, let's just go to Postman in the browser because that's handy for right now. So Postman Online, cool. And here we have Postman Online that we can have a little go and check what's going to come back. Cool, so we'll just go to collections, home. Well, I was already at home. Start with something new. Cool, create new. Great, okay. So we are creating a new space in order to test out our API requests here with Postman. So there we go, we just need a basic HTTP request. It's a GET request, and the GET request we're going to be testing is the API that we were given. So let's just try users first of all and see if we get anything here. So look, perfect. So there we go. We literally have the users that Postman has there. So if we zoom in on this, you can see the different information. So that's great. So we have different people's login details here. That's gas. Now obviously not their passwords and all, but you can pull back the people's information that are on GitHub, and we're going to use this, and you can go and see. So say if we click this particular user, well, let's just go back and open it in a new page. Will that work? Just wondering what will happen if we type this into the browser, you know. Okay, so we just get it back, yeah, because it's the API that we're hitting there. So we'll use this in order to interact with the user's GitHub page. So say if, for example, we want to get Van Pelt's, all of his different repositories, we can hit this repos URL, and that will give us back all the repositories that this user has created. So this is great. And we even have Twitter usernames and stuff in here as well if they have that linked. So great. So for example, we can search for Brad here. So if we want to search, we can do /search/users, and then pass in a query parameter. So the query parameter will pass in, so that should be $Q equals, and we'll say Brad, to look for Brad Traversy's page here. So there we can see login, Brad Traversy, his ID, the URL to people that are following him, so his followers and who he's following. This will give us that information, and his repos. So fabulous. You can get all of this information from interacting with the given GitHub API and integrate this into your own website now. So we'll use fetch requests to actually pull back this data in a JSON format and then display it in a nice way. So that's what we're going to be doing, which is very exciting. Okay. Okay, so we can see different information here as well in the headers. So we have an X rate limit, which is currently at 10. So let's just send that again. 9, 8. Okay, so you can hit it a certain amount of times. So we can increase that if we want to. So without creating a token, you can only hit the API a certain amount of times without any authentication. Whereas if we use a token, then it allows us to increase this rate limit. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to add a token so we can increase the rate limit and the amount of times that we can hit this API to get back the data. So in order to do that, we want to go to GitHub here and go to Settings, and then go to Developer Settings, and go to Personal Access Tokens, so I want to generate a new token here, and I just need to type in my password. I don't think that's the right password actually. There we go. Okay, cool. So for the note, I'll just say GitHub Finder. Seems logical. That's what we're creating it for. So what do I want from the API? I want user. And I also want repo. And repo, yeah, cool. So that should be all we need. So I can generate the token and copy this. And now if I go back to Postman, and by going to authorization here and including the token, and paste in this token that we just got and send. Now our rate limit should go up. Yeah, so now we have 30 instead per minute. So now we can hit this API 30 times per minute instead of our initial number of 10. So that's great. So I want to include this token within the application in order to allow this higher hit limit or higher rate limit. So I want to create a new file, which is an environment file that we can access anywhere within this project. So I'll call it .env. And all of these global variables are embedded into the build. So that means anybody can view them. So you don't put any sensitive information in here. Yeah, so if you had if this was a running website, what you might do is keep the key on your own server, make a request to the server to get this access key, and then go and make the request to GitHub, as opposed to keeping it in a publicly accessible space. So this was the token, but first we'll just fill in what we want. So we say React _app _ and we give it whatever name we want. So I'll say GitHub token. And I'll equal this to the token that we just got. So perfect. And I'll also save the URL for GitHub in here. So I'll say React app GitHub URL and save the URL here also. And I'll set that to this. So we've set the app GitHub URL environmental variable to api.github.com, https://api or // .github.com. So now, because we've added an environment variable, this requires a restart of the terminal. So we'll have to come down here and do just that. We'll have to restart our terminal. So let's see. Let's delete our old one. I won't delete it just yet. I'll add a new one. And then I'll delete this because I want this secondary window here so you can always see what I'm doing over here. So that's why I split it like that. And then we'll run npm start and see what happens. So now we'll see if we can actually access this. So I'll say in my app.js file or .jsx file, just .js, we'll come down here and we'll try to send it out. So let's do it from our home component actually. So here in our pages, in our home page, I'll just close this down slightly so we can see if there's anything wrong. One warning. Footer is defined but is never used in app.js. That's fine. We'll get rid of that now in a moment. Let's just get rid of it now. Let's delete this unused import and then we should be good to go. So cool, save, and then we'll come back to our home page. And I'll just close all the other files because we have too many going on. I meant to say close others, but that's okay. So now in here we're going to inject in that token to see. So we'll say process, which will just process the env file, and we want to process our React app GitHub token. So there we go, we are indeed getting our token. So we can see our token coming back from the GitHub repository, which is great. So now anywhere in the application we can access this environment variable. So we don't want to use it like this, we want to use it when we make a request. So cool. So what we will do is move the requests to the context when the time comes, but for the moment we'll just test it all out by doing it within a component. So ultimately we want a context that we will store all the state, and that's where we'll add it eventually. But for now, we'll just do it within a component. So we'll go to our components and create a new folder, and I'll call this users. And I'll create a new file and call this user results.jsx and do rfce enter to create a React component. And I'll just add user results in here. Down here. I'll just add user results in here. To display something for the time being. So we'll save that. So now on our home page, which is in pages, home page, I'll import our user results. So first of all, we can just use it and then it should automatically import. So I'll get rid of the welcome and instead here I'll type user results. And there we go, it automatically imported for us. So I'll just self-close this and then our error should go away. And I'll just also make a comment because we're going to want to add a search component here to search our users. But we'll do that in the future. So now in our user results component, we can add that request in order to go and fetch that data, get the data from the GitHub API, the exact same way we've seen in with Postman, we're just going to duplicate that same thing with code in our user results JSX file. So we'll just do that same request and get back that same JSON. So then we can interact with it on our page. So I want to import use effect. So we want to just set up our use effect here. So we just say use effect. This should be at the same level. Why is that like that now? Anyway. It looks like it automatically creates our indentation for us at a level of 2. And ours is configured to 4. So there we go. Which makes sense. I just have it at 4 for ease of viewing. So you can definitely see what's going on. So this is an arrow function. Just going to open it up, and then we have our array of dependencies, but we just want this to run on first load, so we're not going to add any dependencies. And then we'll write our function to actually fetch the user. So we'll say const fetch users, and this is going to be an asynchronous function because we're waiting for the data back from the back end. So we just add async before we do our arrow function, and then we can await the results. So we'll say const response equals await, and await the fetch of the URL. So we want to use a template string actually, because we're going to inject in our variable from our environment. So we'll do a $, and then open up our curly brackets and say process env dot react app GitHub URL, because we're getting this from the URL, and then we pass in the / and users, because it's the GitHub URL with / users is where we get the users from. So we can pass a second argument here in order to include the token. So we'll say headers, and this is equal to an object, and then here we pass in the stuff that we want to pass in. So in this case we want to pass in authorization, authorization, yes, and headers. This should be within another parentheses here, so I'll just insert that in, and then that error should go away. So authorization, and the authorization is going to be our, again, our token. So we'll use our backticks, and in here we will say token. This is how you call out to a token. You pass it the keyword token, and then you pass in the token. So then we have our $, our curly parentheses, and then the name of our variable. So it's going to be process .env .react app GitHub and token. Perfect. Cool. So now underneath the response we can do something with the data. So we'll say const data equals, and we just want to await that data. So we'll say equals await response.json, which just turns it into a JSON object. So there we go. Const data. That's correct. No? It should be outside of this as well. So let me just copy this line. This should be up here actually. I just put it in the wrong place because this is closing off our fetch. So we want it after that, and then once we fetch the data we want to do something with it. So perfect. And now we'll just console log the data to make sure that we're getting it. So now if we go back to our page here and we open up our terminal, great, and if we go to the right page we should see this. So we're getting some errors, but for the moment, and I need to call fetch users from somewhere within our use effect, so on the page load. So in here I'll say fetch users and run that function for me, save, and this is our user results. So and our user results is on our home page. So there we go, we can see our user results, and are we getting back our info? There we no. Okay, so not found. github.com/rest. Let's check our network and just see where this actually tried to go. So we have 2 double slashes there, as you can see. So your console here, we had an error. We're getting back not found. And the documentation URL says docs.github.com/rest. And I thought, well, I definitely wrote in users. So then I just checked my network tab to see, well, what was the network request that we actually sent? This gives you more information on the network requests that are coming in and going out. So here we can see that we have a double /, and that's our issue. So if we go back to our user results and get rid of this leading slash, because we must have ended with a leading slash in our environment file, and save and reload the page, I think we should be okay. So I see the user's request and we have a 200 there, so perfect. So now let's go and check our console, and great, we can see we have 30 users there that have all come back in the console. So fabuloso, genioso, marveloso, guys, great. Yep. So what I actually want from all of this information is the login name and the avatar URL. So we're just going to pull certain information, so this avatar URL and then just the person's login. So we'll pull out that information and we'll hook it all up now. So I'm going to import use state in order to keep these users in a stateful way so that we hang on to them. So I'll import use state from React here, and then we can use it. So within our function component, because it should be always within a React component that you use the React hooks. So in here we'll say const and set up our deconstructed array of users, and then the function to update the users. So set users, and this is going to be equal to use state, and we'll initialize it with an array because we know we're getting back an array of objects there. So great, let's save that. And then I'm also going to just add a loader, because when we're getting information back from the API, it could take a moment, and it's good to show the user that something is happening. Users, if there was user studies done, don't ask me to find out from where, but they were done. And basically users find it much more of an enjoyable experience when you're informing them of what's happening on the page. And what it means by more enjoyable experiences, they might just leave your website. So by showing them a spinner or a loading bar or a progress bar, users are much happier because they can see something is happening if it so happens to take a moment. So this is going to be a boolean, so we'll set it to true to begin with. So we'll initialize it like, yeah, okay, everything is loaded, and it's going to be a boolean because this will be an on and off switch for the spinner. So now what we can do down here, rather than just console logging the data, which I'll keep that in actually, we can set the users. So then we're saving that in state. So set users. And we also want to set the loading to false now, because once we've set the users, this means we have the data. So now we will set loading to false. We're no longer waiting on that information to come back from the API. My belly just grumbled, if you guys could hear that, sorry. So guys, it is 5 to 8 p.m. over here, and these honestly take a good hour to load, and I have to go to a community meeting now, because normally I would just pause it if my day, like if I could only do section and section, but I'm not staying up until 2 in the morning. One day doing 40 minutes, I don't think it's going to do anything, you know, it'll be fine. So look, thank you so much for joining me, guys. We have our fetch set up. Let's just save and see how we're getting on. So that's really great. We're getting on quite well here, and things are going smoothly, and we'll continue to display this information now in the next video. So what we're going to do is we're going to add our loading spinner first of all, so that when we're waiting for that data to come back, we display a loading spinner, and then we will display each user's name and their picture on our GitHub Finder here, and then eventually we'll add search functionality so you can search for any user on GitHub. So I'll be searching for myself, best believe, you know what I mean. So look guys, thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening. As always, it's my absolute pleasure, and I hope you learned something today. Thank you. Bye. See you tomorrow.